let's talk about the 10 most popular romance tropes and also why they're important and why you should even care about them. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, best-selling co-author of the Snow and Her Seven Seals series, and on this channel we talk all about romance writing, specifically for newbie and aspiring romance authors. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Monday. Let's take a step back and just talk about what is a romance trope before we get into why it's important and finally get into the top 10 most popular list. A romance trope is simply a literary device to bring two characters together for the purpose of love. There needs to be a reason that your hero and heroine are going to cross paths, are commingling, or existing within the same sphere of the universe, also known as the setting of your book. If they're not together, and that means physically together, whether they are working together, they're traveling together, or they're socially at functions together, then how are they possibly going to fall in love? Now, why should you want to use a romance trope? Because it's a great way to find readers. So just like before in my other video, which I'll leave a link to below, all of the romance subgenres, readers, literary agents, and acquiring editors will seek out specific subgenres, but they will also seek out specific romance tropes. And because they're kind of tried and true, just like the subgenres, people have a certain familiarity with them, and it also brings a certain sort of type of happiness to them, right? So if someone loves the friends to lovers trope, maybe that's their romance in real life, or someone they're pining away for, or something they just like watching or reading, then they're going to be instantly attracted to your book. Now, the top 10 that I came up with were based on just my assessment of a collection of what a lot of literary agents are asking for, as well as what I am seeing pop up across the bestseller list. So the first one, and again, this list is in no particular order, is friends to lovers. So I mentioned that before. These are two people that have a seemingly platonic relationship. Maybe it's your best friend that you never thought of in a romantic way as a dude, but now they seem to be the perfect boyfriend. The second one is enemies to lovers. So these are two people who are not necessarily opposites. Maybe they're both chefs, so they both have restaurants across the street and they're competing with each other, or they're both at the office, they're both analysts applying for a management position. So they're not necessarily opposites attract, which sometimes I think people think when they think of enemies to lovers. They're simply people that, for whatever reason, don't like the other person, but eventually fall in love. And because maybe they're in a competition setting, which is usually normal for the enemies to lovers, they end up interacting together a lot and possibly even helping each other. The third one is the opposites attract. So that is, again, could or could not be the enemies to lovers, but these are people that would never really probably get together. If you were a matchmaker, you would for sure never set these people up. Maybe someone is very like in the country, loves camping, loves being in the outdoors. The other one loves air conditioning and they love going for afternoon tea, and they like only wearing Prada or shopping at high-end luxury stores. So you would never put those two together, but maybe for whatever reason you put those two together and they end up falling in love with each other. The fourth one is the fake fiance. So sometimes there is a will from a very eccentric aunt or uncle leaving the daughter or whoever is supposed to get this fortune or this huge mansion a great fortune inheritance, but they can't get the inheritance unless it's a crazy condition that they are engaged or they're married to someone special. And because they've been living this great single life, they have nobody around. But for the purposes of this, they are going to ask a friend or somebody or some coworker or somebody who needs a favor from them to do this favor for them. And so because they have to be together all the time, they end up falling in love. I'll stop saying that. I keep saying that. you know the point of a romance novel. And the fifth one is mistaken identity. So mistaken identity could be twins, or it could just being in the right place at the right time. And a popular one is where you are waiting for a date, like a blind date that you're supposed to meet somewhere. The blind date, original blind date, either no shows or ghosts or who knows, they don't show up, but you happen to be sitting there. They mistake you as that person, but you're so smitten with them because they're so good looking and they seem so excited to see you. You don't correct them and tell them who you really are. So the whole trope is you pretending to be this other person, but not wanting to get found out, but knowing that you have to tell them eventually. So that is that trope, as well as number 6, which is very closely related, which is undercover. So maybe you are a private investigator or you are doing PI work, but you are pretending to be somebody you are totally not, or acting in a capacity that you aren't really. And there was a popular movie back in the 80s called Working Girl, and she had taken over for her boss and fallen in love with this new client, and the client had never met her boss, so just naturally assumed that she was the boss. And obviously it all ends up blowing up in your face, but you find out the guy truly loves them because they just know them as a person and they're not too worried about that identity. And usually the identity is something glamorous and wonderful, and they just don't want to reveal who they really are, which is maybe someone who is from the wrong side of the tracks or someone who's a single mom with kids or something. The 7th one is amnesia. So there was a remake recently of a Goldie Hawn movie with, I think the original was Kurt Russell, but I could be wrong. It's called Overboard, and she has amnesia, and when he picks her up, he lies to her and tells her she's somebody else, or possibly it's just someone who stumbles into town, gets into a car accident, wakes up with amnesia, and then some nice guy decides to help them out and take care of them. They fall in love, and then obviously maybe she has a boyfriend waiting in the wings or some other kind of life, so it all is going to blow up as well at the end when the truth comes out. Number 8 is May to December. Now, I was really confused by this when I used to hear this term. I'm like, what holiday happens in May and then again in December? May to December romance just means there's a huge age gap. So if it could be an older woman, younger guy, or vice versa, it's typically not the situation where it's a cougar with an older woman. It's usually the other way around, where it's an older guy with a younger woman. Maybe he is a sugar daddy or something else, but this is a May to December romance. Number 9 is dating your best friend's little sister. Now, again, this isn't an ex situation where you're dating an ex. It's two dudes that are besties, and maybe the little sister was off at college, or she was studying abroad, or she was working over in another city, and then all of a sudden, 5-10 years later, fast forward, she comes back, she's like a fully grown woman, and she's super attractive, or maybe it was an ugly duckling situation, and now she's grown up into this beautiful swan, and now he's interested in her. The 10th is the difference between the rich guy and the poor guy. So or the poor girl, or vice versa. So it's the wrong side of the track. So typically you have someone who says their parents say you shouldn't date that person, they're not from our world, and vice versa. So The Notebook was really popular for this, and you'll see the parents say, they aren't part of our world. They're not part of our upper class, and you're just going to water down your reputation and all the hard work that I have done to elevate you and put you into this wonderful situation in society by dating this poor guy. So the other part of that is a TV show is Heart of Dixie. Same thing. She had a secret father in this tiny town, but her mom brought her to New York and, married, or was already married, I think her mom was cheating, to a very prominent New York surgeon versus this small town doctor. So again, it was wrong side of the tracks, trying to keep her there and didn't want her to date or even be in that tiny small town. All right, so let's recap that list because there was a lot. The first one is Friends to Lovers, The second one is enemies to lovers. The third is opposites attract, so someone a matchmaker would never put together. The fourth one is a fake fiance. The fifth is mistaken identity. The sixth is undercover. The seventh is amnesia. The eighth is May to December romances where there's an age gap. The ninth is your best friend's little sister, obviously if you're a guy. And the 10th is the wrong side of the tracks love between two different classes in society. All right, I hope that was helpful and gave you some ideas. There are some other tropes that are popular, but I don't really, maybe I just don't like them. In fact, I have another video that is coming out later this month on the top 3 tropes that have totally trended out that you should avoid like the plague, as well as 3 tropes that I just don't find popular and definitely are not part of my brand. So I would never write those. All right, I hope everyone is having a happily ever after day, and I will talk to you guys next week.